In this video, we will be assembling a Brinly push-toe lawn roller, model PRC-242BH. The steps in this video also apply to model PRT-362BH, PRT-362SBH, PRT-482SBH, and all of the A versions of these models. Tools required for assembly: 2 3/4 inch or 19-inch wrench and sockets, or number 19 wrench and sockets, 2 1/2-inch wrench and sockets, and 2 pairs of pliers. Safety glasses and gloves are also recommended. A skin pack with the hardware has also been provided. Step 1. Attaching the scraper bar. Using the hardware in panel A, first add a 5/8-inch flat washer to the end of the roller drum, then slide a square bearing onto the end of the axle, and then add the scraper bar, making sure the square bearing goes into the square hole at the end of the scraper bar. Add another 5/8-inch flat washer, and secure everything in place by passing a pin through the hole in the end of the axle. Bend both ends of the pins around the axle using 2 pairs of pliers. Now repeat this step on the other side, adding a 5/8-inch flat washer and a square bearing to the end of the axle, and slide the square hole on the other end of the scraper bar over the square bearing. Add another 5/8-inch flat washer and secure everything in place by sliding the pin through the hole at the end of the axle and bending both ends around the axle using 2 pairs of pliers. Note, if there is a groove in the end of your axle instead of a hole, add the supplied E-rings to secure everything to the end of the axle. Step 2. Adding the tow bars. Using the hardware in panel B, run 2 5/16" by 1" carriage bolts through both square carriage holes in both the tow bar and the scraper bar connecting the 2 pieces. Add a 5/16" nylon lock nut to the end of both bolts and tighten these bolts in place with a 1/2" socket wrench. Repeat this step on the other end of the drum by running 2 5/16" by 1" carriage bolts through the square holes in both bars and adding a 5/16" nylon lock nut to the end of each bolt, securing in place with a 1/2" socket wrench. Step 3. Connecting the tow bars. Using the hardware in panel C, center the spacer between the 2 holes closest to the bend in the tow bars, and run a 5/16" carriage bolt through all 3 pieces. Then, loosely add a 5/16" lock nut to the end. Add the second 5/16" carriage bolt to the end of the tow bars, and add another 5/16" lock nut. Step 4. Attaching the clevis. Using the hardware in panel D, align the clevis plates above and below the tow bars. If the tow bars are too tight to add the clevis, go back and loosen the bolts attaching the tow bars to the scraper bar on the previous step. Align the clevis plates above and below the tow bars and run 2 5/16" by 2 1/4" carriage bolts through both clevis plates on either side of the front bolt. Add 2 5/16" lock nuts to the end of each bolt and secure in place with a 1/2" wrench and socket. Then go back and tighten the bolts from step 3 and step 2 to fully secure the clevis in place. Step 5. Adding the clevis pin. Still using the hardware in panel D, add the hitch pin through the end of the clevis and secure it in place with the hitch pin cotter. If you are using a tow roller only model, your assembly is complete. If you are assembling the Brinly push-toe model PRC-241BH, in step 6 we will attach the handle. To convert your tow roller into a push roller, remove the clevis pin and slightly loosen the bolts holding the clevis in place. Then slide the handle in between both clevis halves, lining up the hole in the middle of the handle with the holes in the end of the clevis plates. Then run a 1/2" by 2 1/4" hex bolt through the clevis plates and handle and add a 1/2" lock washer and 1/2" lock nut to the end. securing the handle in place with either 2 3/4 inch or size 19 wrench and sockets. After the handle is in place, retighten the Clevis bolts. Then slide the grips over the ends of the handle. Step 7. Adding the roller plug. Make sure the O-ring properly seats against the roller when tightening the plug. Tips: empty the roller fully after each use and store the roller out of the elements. Hanging your roller on a wall will also keep the roller drum from developing a flat spot. If your roller develops a flat spot from being in storage, just leave it out in the sun on a hot day and roll the flat spot out on a flat surface. For questions, call Brinly Customer Service at 877-728-8224.